has gone somewhere else, including skydiving
Who's,
in Switzerland one weekend. I was like, this is not what it looked like when I studied abroad, that I was like on an airplane every weekend going someplace.
Oh, everybody keeps doing skydiving. Yeah, it's funny. They all do the same stuff. It's like,
I'm sure.
because of course, somebody posted on social media and they're like, oh, I have to do that now.
But it's funny, like, you've known Mona for a long time.
Yeah.
Not anybody I ever would have expected to pull herself out of an airplane, and she looked like happy as could be doing that.
Funny. Jessica Smith's in Florence for the semester too. Brian and Kelly's daughter.
Yeah. Is there, I think there's a whole crew of this all, I heard guys there.
In Barcelona, there's
Yeah.
like 20 of them, yeah. Jess has been avoiding
Is it
that.
working, Bonnie?
Not what I want to, but at least it's up.
Finding the email quickly enough right now from him, but I was pretty sure that's how we went with this date.
Yeah, I don't know.
I got a lot of emails under here from that stuff, and each one has like 10
Yeah.
underneath it.
If the city's in flight school, some may not be able to make it.
Who was that? person?
Or
The objector.
Oh,
So
We'll wait till 3 and then we'll go. We'll close. Yeah.
you got a minute.
yeah, I mean, you can see me on here, should I close the blinds behind me? Yeah. Looks like I'm just kind of whited out.
well, there's gotta be electric.
I don't know how to do that. I'm not gonna.
Oh, yeah.
Is it this one?
Wow, we get the whole,
There's a
get the whole
few.
department in here.
I know, how are you? Good, how are you? Good,
Oh, that's better.
good. There you go. All right, it is 3 o'clock. This is a Pitkin County Hearing Officer meeting. It is Tuesday, March 18th. Again, at 3 o'clock. We have one matter before us, which is 69 Sunshine Avenue LLC activity envelope and site plan review. The applicants are GOBT 33 LLC, Smuggler C LLC, and Spruce Sevens LLC. And the application is for, the request is for an entry gate and call box on an existing, the establishment of an activity envelope and site plan for an entry gate and call box on an existing private road on 3737 North Spruce Street. There were two objectors, David McCluskey and then the Gleasons. The Gleasons have since withdrawn their objection. Let's go ahead and have staff make their presentation on the request, and then we can have the applicant, and if there's any members of the public, we'll take care of that during the public hearing part.
Let's have the memo up. You guys. So again, thanks, Sarah. Franco Palumbo, planner with Pitkin County. We already have the request, the location, 737 North Spruce Street. Here is the aerial view of the property and location. Yellow line is showing that it is within the UGB, the urban growth boundary. So the application is a request for an entry gate and call box going up North Spruce Street and Spruce Street to serve the properties known as 777 Spruce Street, 877 Spruce Street, and 888 Spruce Street. All those homes up there do have approved land use applications and certificate of occupancies for those properties. So just to run quickly through the development standards in chapter 7 of the land use code. The application does comply with the review standards of 23020 G, 71050, and 71060. Staff's response to these standards agrees that the the applicant proposes, staff has evaluated the constraints on the property regarding these standards for 737 property and addressed the applicable standards in this memo. So they're requesting a activity envelope and site plan to bear in along with this application, not just for an entry gate and call box. There is going to be some landscaping improvements, utilities that are going to be buried along the existing access private road, and then also some revegetation and utilities kind of going underneath the road for sensors. So the priorities for in locating activity or development 71060, the 737 property is constrained by steep slopes and scenic view protection areas as viewed from Highway 82. Areas of the 737 property contain slopes over 30%. However, the activity envelope includes slopes less than 30%. And those areas are mainly within that existing right-of-way, private right-of-way, which have been previously disturbed. If there is anything that's going to be over 30%, that's going to be a man-made slope anomaly due to that prior grading. So to move over to 72010 site preparation and grading, the scope of this application is fairly minimal. There's going to be just 2 pillars for the entry gate and then 1 pillar for the call box. So not much grading is going to be involved, and any topsoil will be salvaged on site and used for revegetation where feasible. Protection of natural terrain. Again, this has all been man-made and kind of been kind of manipulated over the years. So the applicants commit to revegetation of disturbed areas and no longer than 1 growing season after conclusion of development. 72020 steep and potentially unstable slopes. So no development is proposed on these steep slopes greater than 30%. As I stated before, it's pretty much all man-made up there. And anything that is the slope over 30% is what we would consider a man-made slope anomaly. And that's just going to be regraded if it is, or trenched under for the utilities along that access. So I may have skipped the category, but I think I'm good. So then for 72030 landscaping and vegetation, again, we've already stated this. Anything that is going to be manipulated will be revegetated within 1 growing season. And I don't think there, after going on a site visit, there is no large trees up there or anything that's going to be having to require a tree permit. And if any trees are to be removed, it's going to be for wildfire mitigation purposes only outside the activity envelope. And then 730 roads, driveways, and parking. So nothing is going to change on the existing access. It's pretty much going to only be an entry gate and call box. The road is going to function as it is. So with that, Aspen Fire didn't require or have any comments for this property, but what we typically find is that they'll require a Knox box. So at least at time of access permit or gate permit, that is going to be reviewed by Aspen Fire Protection District, and they could include some comments during that permit process. I believe one thing that I had as a condition of approval in the determination that I can't find quite in the memo is something that the planning engineer referenced, and that was regarding the applicant provided kind of a turnaround diagram. And so what the planning engineer wanted was to include at time of access permit a license by the state of Colorado Civil Engineering turning movement diagram and perhaps a signage diagram, just to quail the possibility of any kind of parking along that access, so that there is a clear path for those properties up to those properties that the gate is serving. So, with that, this is a site-specific development plan and applicant is requesting 3 years. Vested property rights and staff recommendation is to approve the activity of and site plan review, subject to the conditions of approval and the attached determination.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and turn to the applicant.
All right.
You can state your name for the
Yes.
record.
I'm Mitch Haas with Haas Land Planning, representing the 3 applicant properties, and Kurt Sanders is here as well. I figure I've got to do the screen share thing here somewhere, right? Screen share,
Oh, yeah.
send request. I don't have a very large presentation, I'm gonna keep it pretty quick.
Right there.
Sorry.
There we go, am I on?
No, you should be able to get in there now.
Oh, now do the screen share.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
see, right, okay, yeah. And I have to say yes to screen sharing. Okay. All right, well, that looks like my screen, let me get this on there. This down, okay, maybe go to full size. And bear with me a second while I get this so we can just see the whole picture.
You need an intern.
There we go, okay. I'll try not to cover everything Franco already did. This is an activity envelope site plan review, so from that perspective, it's about as simple an activity envelope site plan review request as I've dealt with in 6 years, whatever I've been doing this for. In that it's all previously disturbed ground and developed ground. And while there are hazards on the property, none affect the area we're proposing the development. So we had originally submitted, now, cut me a little slack, please, because we submitted this in 2020 and then got put on the shelf for a couple of years while we had to deal with the violation, and a separate application review, and then come back to this. So the drawings maybe aren't as great as could have been by now. But the only envelopes that were originally submitted were these little black lines around the actual gate and then where the call box would go. And Franco correctly pointed out that we're gonna need to run our electricity to these. And there are in the plans provided pads that go underneath the pavement of the road, etc. So I've just drawn kind of a conceptual idea of what I would call an access utility landscape envelope in the red. The details of it and whether to include this area or that area or not include them, we can probably work out before recording it if you see fit to approve this today. But this is sort of the general idea of what I had in mind was an envelope like this. So really just encompassing the shoulder alongside the existing driveway on both sides. And a little bump out where there's flatter area, no vegetation, just in case. And same down in here, there's all these utility pedestals. We got a transformer and there's 2 different phone and cable pedestals. I don't know if we'll pull electric from the bottom one to here or from the top one down. There's another transformer up there. So I'm just trying to cover ourselves that way. So again, the gate at the top, this box that's cut off at the top of the picture, sorry about that, is their other transformer. So possible we'll pull down and up or one all the way to the other. So just trying to cover all the angles on that. And then down at the bottom, keeping it nice and wide in case we have to do utility work or anything under the ground, under the road. But again, just encompassing the road and the obviously disturbed areas right alongside the pavement. So that's kind of the idea, and I thought I'd show it to you in kind of real world on the GIS maps as well, so you can see the aerial. Again, so you see the bump out is, again, all these utilities are up in here, so it made sense. Carry it up onto the pavement because this existing wall might as well be part of the access envelope as well, and there's sewer manholes and whatnot that might be needed. We haven't done all the electrical analysis yet. So then down through the middle, again, the blue line is give or take exactly where the gate would go, not precisely, but pretty best estimation based on the topography and this sewer hole here. And then again, towards the bottom, and that would be about where the call box goes. And as I mentioned during the site visit, there's this big boulder that sits here. If for some reason it's found to be preferable that the call box sit above it, that's fine, we could do that on the plans prior to recording. Our thought in keeping it lower was just if somebody can't get, the idea is you pull your car up here, you talk, and if you can't get in, then you're far enough away from the gate swing that you don't have to worry about that. And if you do get in, the gate can swing open above the road before you get to it. And then the idea of keeping it this low is if you're not getting in, it's less of a backup distance to get back out. As opposed to starting way up here. It's, it's a hill. As you saw on the property. While I'm there, I suppose I should mention, yeah, the gate swings down the hill so that there's no conflict with hitting the pavement when it's swinging, because the road keeps going uphill above. If we were trying to swing uphill, it would run into the pavement. That's what the call box will look like. It's not very tall, not very large. It's not going to be visible from in town, that's for sure. Probably not going to be visible from right around this bend, right down here, if it is just a little bit. And it's just a black standing box, not a whole lot different than, like I said, the parking meters you find in town. These are some visual representations. I have a bigger version of that, maybe it's easier to see. So the thought was, as we know, the applicant likes to put artwork on things. So we figured we'd represent artwork on here, whether that happens or not, better to represent it. And if it's not, and it's a plain gate, I'm sure that's simple, fine. It's kind of like easier to take away than put it back afterwards. So just showing some possible artwork on there, two pillars and a gate in between, and then the call box down at the bottom. And these are sort of just spec drawings that were included in the original application. So these are all representations. This is pretty detailed, exactly how the thing gets built and works. It's a very small footprint for development. And the gate's all of 5 feet tall, as this dimension here shows, to the ground. And then this is all below ground, these two parts. That shows the swing motion. These are overly detailed spec drawings for how to build the thing and how it goes together. And then here's sort of the call box. You can see on the side of it, there's an option for a camera to catch license plates, and then it calls out right here on the plans a Knox box location. And again, this is sort of, conceptually how things get wired. So it shows you do need to pull power. It's not going to run in these lines. These are just sort of if boxes were here. But that's the whole idea. And then that shows, so in the roadway itself, we'll have to cut pieces of patch back in, but these are sensors that go in the roadway to have the gate working so that it knows when a car is coming and from either direction, and when a car is passed to close back up. And again, it's all private road, so easy to just do these cuts and repairs. And up here, these were a couple more sensors they were showing, so that's why I was carrying that envelope way up there. I think that's it. This is a diagram. I don't know. This is how they run conduit. So that's out of my expertise to the extent I have expertise in something. So that's the gist of it. As far as the conditions of approval go, we're fine with all of the conditions as drafted. The request for Josh for backup movements and signage plan, if signage, no problem, we'll take care of that.
Okay.
My one thought was it's maybe prior to building inspection, final inspection, just includes this thought in the way it works functionally or not, but sometimes that happens in the middle of the winter. So I was trying to say maybe, or as maybe allowed by the building department for any landscaping or revegetation, which I think will be pretty minimal because there's no real visual impacts, and the areas that should get torn up are basically dirt.
Okay.
Otherwise, I think that's all I've got. Unless, Kurt, did you want to add anything?
I guess all I will add is, I responded in writing to the objections from the neighbor. Look, our response is that, each of the concerns that were addressed by the neighbor, raised by the neighbor, were previously addressed in a private agreement that the neighbor took title to this property subject to. And that would include the concerns with the installation of the gate, obviously. That would include the neighbor's concerns with pedestrian and vehicular access beyond the gate that was expressly addressed in the agreement. The wall, although not really relevant to why we're here today, the wall was built with proper approval and permission pursuant to that agreement. What I didn't address in my letter, is that in addition to those items, the agreement also expressly provided that the neighbor consented in advance to the filing of the application and obtaining the approvals. So, again, I guess our position is those objections and the reason we're here are really not relevant, and are, I guess from my position, invalid, given the fact that we have a private agreement that addresses all those matters. So, I think based upon the agreement and what was previously negotiated, I think the objections were addressed in advance and really aren't appropriate at this time.
Thank you.
Right, I probably should mention the Gleason's objection. We met on site with Georgie Gleason, walked her through the plans. And once she understood the plans, she said, okay, no problem, I'll withdraw my objection.
Okay, great. Thank you. So now I'm going to see if there's any members of the public either here or on Zoom. Is there
We
anybody?
have no one.
We have nobody, okay. So as there's no members of the public, I'm not gonna take any comments from the public or the objectors. I would note that the one objector who did not withdraw their objection is not in attendance, and so, just noting that for the record. So let's see here. Just getting to the recommendation part of it. So I don't have any further comments or questions on this matter. I think, any concerns that the objector had have been addressed by comments from the applicant. So therefore, with the one change that, Mitch had suggested, which could you provide to just, send it to me or send it to Franco. So with one change to that paragraph 4, I approve.
Stop sharing screen.
I approve the activity envelope and site plan for 737 Spruce Street, subject to the conditions of approval in the determination that was attached to the application or to the hearing officer packet with the one change that Mitch made.
Maybe a question?
Yeah.
Would you want to add a finding, sort of maybe responding to the objections raised are, were addressed in those documents that are referenced? I know those are all
Yes.
referenced in kind of the background,
Yes,
but maybe that kind of ties the
yes, I would
loop
agree.
on that.
I would agree.
to,
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe just an additional finding, like new finding number 8 or something to capture that.
Yes,
Sort of
I
response
agree.
To the objection.
I agree. So that should be addressed in the approval as well.
Okay.
All right.
Do you or Bonnie or anyone need a print of what I put on slides on the?
Yeah,
Okay.
or send me a PDF of everything too,
Sure, I
because
could
I
do all that.
can, here, then I'll give this back. If you'll send me the PDF, I'll get it uploaded to this meeting so that it's represented in the packet.
This meeting adjourned.
Good enough.
Yeah, easy enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was expecting more.
You're expecting
I
fireworks?
know, sorry. No, sorry about that. To make up for some other ones.
Right, I know,
probably,
we've
right?
had more fun.
Yes,
right?
that's right.
This
right.
when,
Had more fun.
get this